So let's say you have a game idea, right? And maybe you worked on a game previously, or it's a case where you have built maybe a prototype before, and the new idea that you have is kind of similar to the old idea. Maybe things are a bit different in the execution, but the assets can be reused. Did you know you can actually reuse those assets using AI also? So look at this one. So a game that I post a lot in my YouTube shorts is this one called Community Dog, right? Which follows this dog and his journey around the community, trying to get food and stuff. I have some other stuff I want to add to the game and, do some fixing up and stuff. But during this process of getting the game to where it is now, I passed through several um, ideation stages, right? And the assets that were generated and stuff. So the sprite sheets and stuff. So like even the different places and stations. What you can actually do is use back a lot of the stuff if it makes sense for you. So this one now is called Phone Panic, which is a game about losing your phone. So this is more a like a MVP, because this one I haven't really like changed the sprites or anything. It just kind of gives you a basic using the same kind of outlay from Community Dog. So what I did, I'm gonna really try to break this down for you now, so you can actually understand how to approach building out a game from concept to something that's maybe remotely playable. So even in some case that you don't really have a concept yet, this will still kind of help you to move a bit forward or farther. All right. So all right, let's go. So first things first, what I did, I had this idea because I kept losing my phone. Not really losing it, but well, in a sense losing it. But I had my phone and I was leaving it all over the house. And I've been somebody over the years who was always kind of lost phones easily. So I said, all right, why me not try build out a game idea around that? How would that look? So I said, went to ChatGPT and I said, I have an idea for a fine, well, for a it's very kind of jumbled, but can't find my phone game where you accidentally lose it in different places. Um, you wonder where you left it. Maybe you're trying to remember where you last had it, and it only gives you bits and pieces of memory. It could be home, could be in a taxi, it could be in a restaurant, at work, on a trip. Different settings. So if you look at the thing here, it actually gives you different places. So you can actually, all right. So let's travel. And you see you have different locations here. So you have home, taxi, restaurant, office. So, yeah, just kind of give you an idea. So I can just skip to a different location and look around. And you see the taxi man there. So you can actually go and press E to talk to the taxi man. And um, you can ask him to borrow your phone. So you see, well, if you can really see this in the background, it says, "Me not credit to their brother." So if you know anything about Jamaican people, typically when you ask them to borrow their phone, sometimes they'll reply that, right? So yeah, so I just give the basic idea, and like you say, you could request, you could beg a call for someone to ring, or for someone to ring the phone, and their request or the reaction to the request will be different. So like friends and family will typically react different versus like a stranger who might think you're like trying to scam them, or get into their phone, or maybe they lie to you that they don't have a phone, or which could also be a part of way. Um, also, it's like just getting the general idea. So they could say they don't have a phone, or maybe they would say like they don't have credit, which the taxi man just said to me here, pretty much lying. Hope could be. So yeah, then ChatGPT kind of broke down the idea a bit more, how it could really look, and other things like that. So, all right. So the fun part is that calling the phone isn't guaranteed to solve it, because sometimes the phone is on silent, or maybe it's on vibrate, and where you are, you're not really hearing it. And then you're finished, so you run out of the minutes or credit fits the idea perfectly too. Different levels, so like the home, taxi, restaurant, like I showed you. So yeah, so this would be just like a first, just a fleshing out of how the idea could look. Now you can from here now can decide on like name ideas or other things you want to see that make sense for you. So I went with phone panic, right? But you have several options. You can actually um, mix and match these also, and if you have any ideas that you want to kind of use as the name, that's fine also. There's no like inherent need for you to like go one direction or the other, that doesn't fit your vision, right? So I was checking. Also, originally wanted to go with phone hunt, but checking there was a game. I think it's an app or a game. Well, it's like a utility thing called phone hunt already. So I said, all right, phone panic. All right. And so it gave me even like variations. So you could actually have different variations of the game once tested to see if it actually makes sense. Could have different um, versions. So I said Huliganverse presents Phone Panic Lost in Kingston. Um, and I had the idea, why not kind of lean into the older phones? So, the famous Nokia, the Sony Ericsson, the Blackberries, the Motorola Razr, other phones that were so innovative in their time. Why not, instead of it just being like a, smartphone, which would be not that fun to really play with, right? Or, have in this game. So, um, what I pretty much ended up doing was going with old styled phone in the way that these would look. So you have a BlackBerry style phone, Razr flip style phone, Sony Ericsson, and then you have like the basic, which would be like the first iPhone type, the smartphone. So then now you have different loops that you could add. Um, and then you have like different places. So maybe you have a place where you buy the phone at, or like to get the phone fixed, or some other things that would relate to like this game. Then cosmetic, maybe you want to customize the phone, so that could be like the wallpaper, the phone case, charms, stickers, other stuff like that. So this kind of helps you to flesh out the idea. If there's any part that say you don't really like that is brought back to you, you can always change it, or if you want to make anything a certain way, you can always do that also. So let's say you get this breakdown, so it kind of give you like a how the phones would typically look. So you can also kind of get that the feel of what you want the game to actually feel like. So if you want to go with like an older, more rustic type of game, or if you want to go with more a modernistic, futuristic style, depending on what you want to go for, right? So, and you can even have like maybe a collection of phones, right? So yeah, so my chat GPT kind of gives me like a breakdown because I've done so many different game iterations with it. So it's up to you to kind of decide which AI you want to use. You can use ChatGPT, you can use Claude, any other ones that you'd want to use. Um, and then from there, now I decided to create the game cover. So you have Phone Panic Lost in Kingston, right? And I really like this touch too. So it actually brings the dog from Community Dog in the poster also. So it's a nice little touch. I see the types of phones that are on the screen. So you have the old, should be like a simple smartphone. You have like the BlackBerry styled phone. You see the flip phone there, and they have the old, what to be like the old Motorola before the Motorola, the old type with the without this one. All right. So then I asked, all right, would it make sense? Would it be more like a retrace the steps type of gameplay, or trying to gather clues and then like interact with the people you talked with earlier? So like you're trying to retrace the steps them, and more like a mystery where to kind of connect the dots and kind of figure out where the phone would be based on where you were, right? And then they say, yeah, that could work, and yada yada yada. Yeah, so So from there, why is this not loading? Um, all right, so and then I asked if it was going to be isometric. So there are many ways you can go with the gameplay being, but why I went with isometric was because Community Dog is already isometric. So this is one of the isometric games that I've kind of worked on. And what I like about this is just the way that the dog can visit different locations. That's the same way that the guy in Phone Panic is gonna um, go around and visit people and ask them about what happened, and maybe check and check the taxi, check different places to see if he lost the phone at that place. So after you get that idea breakdown, so after I got to this stage and when I understood that it could be asymmetric, I was saying, um, could I like just switch it out with Community Dog? Because Community Dog already has the isometric movements, the camera collision and everything already kind of built in, and I've kind of worked with it enough to kind of have enough assets in the library that can actually be swapped out easily. So if I was to show you, all right, look at this one here. So you can actually see some of the assets, the same assets that were in um, the same assets that were in Community Dog are available here also. So you see like talk to Miss Gloria. Did you see my company phone? I'm gonna explain that also. So yeah, so we kind of just use that to kind of help us to shortcut the process of having to build out everything from scratch. So instead of having to like build out everything again, knowing that we already have this vast library kind of built in, why not just use that? And the quickest way to do that, what I did was to, let me see if I can show you here. Let me just put this down and close that out. All right, so what I did was what is called a fork. So there is a fork which duplicates or branch the chat. So I had the chat for Community Dog already, and I just branched it out, and it gave me the same duplicate up to this point, and I just kind of put what I wanted to happen. All right, so from there, so you can kind of see the main idea for the game here. You're gonna see like the memory fragments of stuff that may have like happened before. So there's also like an overthinking element to it too. So when you lose your phone, especially like with this game, so it can actually be your personal phone or a community phone. Maybe the company has kind of given you some rules. Maybe just telling you like how much trouble you can get in if you lose the phone, how sensitive the data is. Maybe you can end up losing your career, getting arrested if certain secrets get leaked. This reminds me of the whole thing with the Avatar movie. The Avatar Last Airbender movie that got leaked, something like that. That's what I'm thinking, right? So you see that different types of phone, the cases, the ringtones, the upgrades. Yeah, all right. You can look at like a timestamp, so you can see what really happened. They put the phone on the table, the waiter called you, you slid the phone into your bag, you up the food, and then at 11 you can't find the phone, and that's where you try to have to retrace the steps and see what kind of happened. So for me, it's a good game idea, and I kind of also brought down like uh what the tip, like the first pass of phones could actually look like. So this is like the spreadsheet for that. So you see different. So you see the brick, the bricking, 100, the flip star, the berry key. All these that would make sense for this type of game, right? So I recommend using ChatGPT for a lot of this because it kind of helps with keeping everything kind of organized and fit in a way that makes sense. So I use ChatGPT for the ideation and iteration and kind of getting the ideas fleshed out as good as possible. Then once I have something that makes sense or what I think would be a good idea, what I want to get to is the first MVP, the first version of that makes sense that somebody would want to play, right? And the quicker I can get to that, I can always make changes instead of me building out the entire thing. Like I mentioned in the when I was working on the first version of what would later become cancel culture. When I mentioned that I had built out unsubscribe.io, and then when I was ready now to get um, the domain name, it was like $50,000. So on the gameplay side, I typically try to get the minimum, the MVP, the minimum viable product, which I recommend you do also. Because once you get to that minimum, if it's even to draw it out and then somebody can look at it and say, okay, this makes sense and that would be a good gameplay. And then you can actually have people like test it and tell you what they would want to see or what's missing or what feels bad. The quicker I can get to that point, even if it's ugly, like this, you can barely see anything on the screen. And maybe this is like a little bit of a better version of that. You can actually see you actually see um, the playable parts because maybe you can see the assets a bit better. So you can actually build from here in a way that makes sense to you and fits what you want to see. Because here's the thing with the AI development of the games too. You have to know that there's also gonna be a lot of debugging that has to be done. So it makes sense that you start from baseline and then always just build on that bit by bit to get to where you want to get to. Because even with community dog up to now, there's still like issues. Because if you look at the guy here, so I still have to like fix his spreadsheet. I still have to put in like the bones and other things for the dog. So if I go over to the thing here, you see that even the building. So yeah, so it's bit by bit still making changes and stuff, and you just work at it and work on it until you get to this point. But here's the thing though, I'm on the plus plan. I think it's a plus plan with ChatGPT, so that gives me access to the codex. I can actually use codex and be able to do a lot of these things. So what you can do um, is build out your game to the visuals level, and then if you want to work from there with maybe a developer or somebody else to kind of bring the idea to life, you can also do that instead of doing it full AI. You just get the assets to a place of MVP ness where you can actually see how this would kind of look. If you have access to like AI like this, I can build it out. So you can actually use Codex to do this, or you can use Claude also. So depending on what you want to do, it's up to you. All right. Oh, so I also want to later like add like different levels of security, so or severity. So like mild, so if you're late for work, awkward. So depending on the phone it is and what's the issue. If it's like a company phone, the critical and like chaos, like if certain sensitive details get released, then it could lead to a huge problem, right? But here's the thing too. I want to kind of have this be like you will see like the flashbacks maybe like in the loading screen and stuff, but when it comes on to the actual outcomes, it can actually be something like you would have more like an overthinking type thing happening. So you are the overthinking, right? So I see I had here, I'm thinking of the reasons for the urgency. So maybe about important call you can't miss that's coming in soon, or maybe that's company phone and you need to find it because you have sensitive information that I mentioned and stuff. Um, can be a big scandal or some petty reason. So it just depends on, you know, what is supposed to happen. Based on level on what would be the thing that you're trying to get the phone for. All right. yeah, and as I mentioned, the overthinking becomes worse during the search, and you'll have like the flashback moments where you think about the things that maybe had like a meeting about the company phone where they said that the info is sensitive, and if anybody lose the phone, they told you the steps and like they told you the punishments if you lost the phone and all of that. So yeah, so like kind of like a flashback to reality type of thing. So yeah, you can always look through this, and any part that you like or any part that you dislike, you can always say, okay, I like this part, but I don't want this part in. Can you change that to fit my overall vision of the game? But as I said, the main part, even beyond just building out the entire thing, is understanding what you want to be the thing that you know is playable. Because maybe even the idea that you have for the original build isn't what you get as the final game. Never, typically, it's never gonna be that. The idea is gonna be huge, but by going from MVP to build to something that people want to see, then that becomes something that you can actually use. I don't know if I'm rambling too much. Just let me know if I'm going a bit overboard. But I just want to kind of give you some ideas of how to kind of use this. And you know, um, here's the thing, right? You're gonna have like the memories and the what if scenarios in your mind kind of overlapping, and that's gonna build anxiety and the overthinking aspect with that too, right? So yeah, I call that panic vision. All right. So you look at the security briefing from like 3 days earlier. The company told you that the phone had the sensitive confidential information. Do not leave them attended. Do not lend them to anybody. And for a third time, if you lose one, report it immediately. Right. So it kind of gives you that um, understanding that this is something to really panic about, which goes back to the name, phone panic, right? But yeah. All right, so done yapping for now. I think I gave you enough to kind of get the idea of how to kind of work with this, and then from there, you can always develop like the mock-ups, so like the visuals of how it could look. So like in the internal um, visuals, you can always have like the phone. You look at like the battery life when you last saw it, maybe the ringtone loudness, the vibration strength, durability, signal strength, if the phone is on mute, any kind of storage use. So like, company phone, if the storage is this much used, then that typically means that there's some files on it, right? So yeah. And then from there just kind of work to build it out in a way that makes sense. And all right, let me just kind of show you the other visuals that I had in mind. Um, and now, say like this would be something that would be like uh vision what if vision that you could have, which would be like a load screen type thing. We see like it's loading here, the panic vision, and you see in the background be taken away. So I say right here, this isn't real, it's all in your head, right? And then the next thing from there, um see, so like news headlines, the blurred face and all that. So yeah, and so one of the things that I typically like to do once I've kind of built out the idea enough, I like to get a product resource document built out for the game. So it gives me like an overview and everything else about what's gonna be, um, what I want to get out of the generation. So this would pretty much cover most of the ideas or all the ideas. Then what I can just do is bring this into somewhere like Codex, or bring it into a cloud or wherever else you want to have it. And then from there now you would be able to build out the MVP, which is least, the minimum, the most basic version of the game. And then from there now you can always build that up into something that more fits your vision, that looks, nicer, that fits more, that is, more playable, not responsive. Fix the things that the bugs that you can see, maybe like the buildings and stuff that you bring in aren't the right size and stuff. So you change those bit by bit. So instead of everything just being in at one time, you just kind of work at making it feel good. All right. So yeah, I don't think I need to say much more. So you just bring this over. So like it gives you like different phases, investigate, build timeline, recover the phone, what really happened. Like it gives you like a breakdown of what happened when you actually find the phone, or you know, like after recovery, you can actually see what happened, right? Urgency scenario, company phone, and yeah, stuff like that. So you just bring this over into your favorite game engine, or you can even bring this to a game developer if you want, so they actually understand what you want to be done. And then you tell them to give you the minimum viable version of that, and then yeah, work from there. Okay, so done yapping for now. Hopefully this was a bit helpful. I'm not sure if it will be or not, but yeah, done yapping for now. All right, bye.